Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. So we really appreciate you being here. My name is Bree. Obviously, I am the founder of Here and Ready, and I'm so excited to have Tiffany Yvonne Cox with us so that we can talk about the path to leadership and how being a part of that actual leadership as a delegate can really help change and move things forward for our union. So I will then pass it on to Ms. Tiffany.
Yeah, thank you so much. So welcome everyone, and huge thank you to Bree for using this really important platform of Here and Ready, where we champion Black women to let them know that we are here and ready to be seen, heard, and incorporated into the arts. So I'm a Los Angeles local board member and also a delegate. And I wanted to have this conversation just for those who being a union part of leadership was something completely new to me 2 years ago. I was approached by someone who was on the board, and they noted a desire and a need for more youthful voices, for more diverse voices. And that he was like, I've seen you out in the community doing things, so I feel like you might be a good person to be a part of this. So I did my research, which I learned a lot of different stuff. I felt like Alice in Wonderland. I went down in the rabbit hole and I was like, what is happening here? And why aren't we in the room? So knowing that it was a 2-year commitment of volunteering, because it's volunteering our time, nobody gets paid, including President Gabrielle Carteris. Nobody gets paid for this. This is all volunteering, but it's for the betterment of us. So I decided to run, and I was very blessed, and I won, where I got onto the board, and I also became a delegate. And the biggest thing for me was getting in the room to talk about the issues with hair and makeup for Black actors and actresses on set. We all have our horror stories of the lack of dignity, safety, and health when it comes to that. So since my time being on the board, I was like, great, I can get a resolution in. We have something called convention, where if you see something you want to be improved and you want support from our union, you can write a resolution and it goes forward as a recommendation for our national board to look at it and create action steps and use funding to make it happen. So I did one for proficient hair and makeup artists on set, which was wildly popular. It moved forward to the national board. It was not something that ended up in negotiations. So I wasn't mad at it though, because we got some other great things that happened when it came to provisions of how much more we're going to get paid, when it came to sexual harassment and also on set having the proper clothing and stuff like that. But I was like, let me find out why my resolution didn't move forward, and there just wasn't space for it. But what I realized was, with the title of my position, I had ears for people to listen to me. So I've been in meetings with President Gabrielle Carteris, and before David White stepped down, our executive director. This is over all of SAG-AFTRA, no matter where you live in the union. They're over the entire union. Had meetings with them about my concerns and the things that I wanted to happen. And then I created a think tank, which had notable celebrities and notable reps that were a part of it who are helping to move the dial. So what that looks like is having a panel with the PGA. It included the PGA, IATSE, SAG-AFTRA, and it was hosted by Management 360 and the Gersh Agency to talk about this issue. And when I tell y'all, like, even the Black execs, they had no clue this was a problem. They thought it was a vanity thing. Like, Black people, it was a vanity thing, not realizing that people are breaking our hair apart. The understanding that the Black people who are doing our hair, they just come in for that day. We don't have anything consistent. Understanding that it's a completely different experience from my white counterparts on set as a Black person when I come in for hair and makeup, that I got to bring my wigs with me. They had no clue about any of this. But I have to say, it's because of my position in SAG-AFTRA, I got their ears for them to fund it and do something about it. And Devon Franklin, y'all know him, he's a producer, Megan Good's husband, tore into them once he heard what was going on, which has continued to. Things are still rolling about, but what has continued now to is that there's people who are going to the networks to talk to each of them, starting off with Netflix and Disney, to talk to them about this issue and how we can make actionable change and also hold them accountable. The next step as well that I'm working on, and again, this is truly because of the reach I had of being a board member and a delegate, is you guys might have heard of the Crown Act, which was supporting women in the office spaces so we can have our hair natural and it's seen as a professional thing. It's a pitiful that it's not given, but it's not a given. So the Crown Act was created. There are certain states that have taken it into legislation. And the woman who helped with doing all of the language and legislation for it, she also supported President Biden. She's now supporting us and trying to figure out with legislation how to change the certification process when it comes to hair and makeup artists, because they get certified, but they're not certified. They don't learn about our hair. So making sure that's a requirement within there is something we're working on now. And again, this is all because of the reach of our union. Now, pre-COVID, and I'm gonna stop talking. I feel like I've been going. I'm sure people have questions.
No,
But pre-COVID, y'all, when I tell you there was funding I didn't know was available from our union, and this is because of our dues. There is funding for things that we desire and need. Again, this was pre-COVID, before there were all types of staff cuts and things like that. So I was in some committee meetings, and this was at the very beginning, before any of the stuff I just described happened. I said, this is an issue that's dear to my heart. Can you guys support? They were like, yeah, we got a budget. Let's figure out a way to do it. And that's just because I'm in the room. That's the only reason why. It's because I'm in the room. So I keep on saying that because when it comes to it, it's our union. When we are a part of union, and even this is so important for our pre-members too, so you know the access that you have and why it's so important to join the union eventually. And we are championing everybody who's taking the steps towards that. When we are in the room, we can ask for the things and give the examples of our desires and needs, because they can't turn away when you're sitting right there in their face. So this is a little bit of my call to say, hey, if anybody's ever interested in union leadership, understanding the commitment, understanding what you can get out of it, this is my story and I'm sticking to it. And I hope it invigorates y'all to be interested in possibly getting even more involved.
Tiffany, why don't you take us through the difference between the delegate experience versus the board member experience?
Sure. Yeah. So for a delegate, the main commitment is to attend convention. And when you're at convention, say that you want to, I'm just going to make something up. Okay. Oh, here we go. I think that intimacy coordinators should be a part of our union. You can write that resolution down. It's stated in front of everybody from every single local. This time it's going to be online. So every local will be there online. It's stated in front of them. And then there is a vote taken by all the other delegates to say, yes, this should move forward, or no, this is not something that we think is desirable for our union. So you're able to put your things forward that you think would support other artists. That's the delegates. For the board members, if you're a local board member, there's at least 4 meetings a year that happens. And I would say, at least from my experience, I feel as if it's the position of being a board member that helps to push your voice forward. That's where I really see it, to be honest with you, like almost just the figurehead of it. I don't want to diminish it that much, but you're present at the board meetings. You can put a resolution forward 4 times a year now to say, we need this. Can we find a way to do this? Can you recommend it to the national board to find a way to do this? You also find that many board members, not always, but many board members end up being the heads of committees, because there's a lot of things to work on, from background to stunts to our singers to broadcast. There's so many different variations of artists. So there's several different committees in order to support that and to support other desires and needs that we have or we want to look at. Like I'm on the women's committee, and I'm also on the National Next Gen committee. Anybody can be a part of committee, whether you are a delegate or a board member. But what you will find most of the time is that it's a board member who heads the committee, or there might be a delegate who heads the committee as well. I hope that helps a bit to see, like.
Sure. And just in terms of the delegate experience, the convention is only held once a year, or is it every 2?
Oh, excuse me. It's every 2 years. Every 2 years convention is held. So it's through your term. You'll go once during your 2-year term.
And then as far as the board member experience, you had to run for this, right?
Yes, you do.
So what was the election process like?
Yes. So I'm gonna be real. We have what you might find kind of like two different parties, and this is for the LA local I'm speaking of. There's Membership First and Unite for Strength. So I did my research and went to different people from both of those parties to see, like, where do my values align? Where energetically does it feel good? I decided I wanted to go with Unite for Strength because I feel as if they're very progressive, logical, and sane when it comes to how they approach negotiations. So with that being said, they back you and push you in during the election process, which means they have the funds to put out a mailer or put out an email with your image on it if you're a board member or you're trying to run for a board seat, with your image on it to say, vote for this person. If you so choose, you can pay an exorbitant amount of money in order to send your own email. You'll get that from some people. They'll send an email saying things about who they are, what they want to change with the union. It's expensive. It's like thousands of dollars. That was not my ministry. That was not my song. I did some ballot parties. So we would get together and I would talk about the things I want to do for the union. And then I would say also, well, here's a list of people that I think you should vote for, because it's a lot of people. I think there's 49 seats total for board. And you also have to vote for delegates too. So it's, how many delegates are there? Like 129, I want to say. So it's a lot of people. We don't know who all of those people are. And it's also important to note, you might see a famous name, and sometimes they continue with union service. Sometimes they do not. It's just a name that's on there. And that helps one of the parties in order to get more of their people in.
And then during the actual course of the year, when they have things like the wages and working meetings or things like that, that's when you'll see these people in the room, hopefully, if they're actually still doing their job, speaking out about the things that relate to that individual meeting or that negotiation.
Exactly. The W and W's, and just like she noted, wages and working. So you will see people who are on the board or people who are delegates or people who are volunteering. And also any of us are welcome to it. If you are part of the union, you can go to the W and W's, and during that time, you can voice your desires and needs and things that you think need to happen when it comes to negotiations. And what negotiations I'm talking about are theatrical and commercial negotiations. Those two are separate though, because we negotiate with two different people. The AMPTP, which is our producers, we negotiate with them when it comes to our wages, working and living wages when we're on set. And then there's the JPC for commercials, because we work with advertisers on the commercial side. So we negotiate with them for what we need for wages and working on set. And that happens during W&Ws. Anybody can go to those and express their desires and needs.
Do you see a lot of us in those meetings?
Not at all. Not at all. For the people in the back, not at all. And it's a lot of older people. So some of us are there. I would say out of the majority who are there, maybe I see 10 is a large number for me to say, but I'm gonna give a grace and say 10, because sometimes I haven't been to like a background W&W before. So I don't know what that looks like, or stunts. So I'm gonna say maybe 10 or less we usually see. And the people that are there are usually of a certain generation. I think we need all variations of it. We need all different colors of it. We need all different ages and identities when it comes to being in those rooms, because if I'm not there to speak up and say, I need this for my hair and makeup, nobody else is speaking up for us. They don't know it's an issue. They just don't know. They don't realize. They can't speak to it. They can empathize, but nobody can speak to it the way us who have the lived experience can.
And in the same way, we're also talking about different status levels and class levels, and what demands are on you coming from a financial place A versus financial place B, and the expectations that come with it. Because there's a lot of people who are coming from having come through some liberal arts school, dealing with student loans, dealing with trying to get the dues paid. And that all has to be a part of the whole person that's coming into a union conversation.
Exactly, exactly. And this isn't even our union. I'll speak about IATSE because I should mention before, we've been having talks with IATSE, a group of us who are part of the LA local board and also part of the national board. We've been having one-on-ones with IATSE to talk about how can we make this change. And even at IATSE, they noted the economic difference between those who get into that union, which is it's exorbitant. Like how much they pay, like it can be up to $6,500 for somebody to join their union. Yeah, 65. Who got that laying around right now? And you're trying to join the union. So that was a place where they recognized like, oh, this might be one of the reasons why somebody's coming from a different economic breakdown. And that's why we might not have as many certain color, certain age in the union. So I just give that as an example when it comes to ours as well, just like Bree had just noted. Yeah.
And I also feel like when it comes to hair and makeup, there was a lot of talk about how the path to their membership has been affected because people are coming in with different types of experiences. Maybe you were on a music video before, and they're not considering that a part of your experience toward you being on a set.
Right.
Makes sense to me, but there's just that recognition from those higher ups to say there's more than one way to get into this conversation.
Exactly, exactly. And there's a bit of a change too, I think, that is needed and it's seen, but they need more of a push of the changing of the old guard. Things have been in place in a way for so long where they were like, oh yeah, you worked on a music video, but that's not working on television set. There definitely are significant differences, but that person still has a skill set that can be applied to a TV theatrical set or to a commercial set.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as far as the actual process, once you're there, what's the day to day? I mean, you're out there working as an actor still, you still have those commitments to your life. How do you balance that out with your board responsibilities?
Oh Lord. Well, and also I have a 14-month-old son. So I was pregnant when I also was running. So it has been, I'm like, wow, what would it be like without having a child? I mean, I'm doing the auditions. I am taking the classes. I am staying up late at night or early morning, learning the lines and reading the scripts. And I'm doing a committee meeting that sometimes lasts about an hour, hour and a half, once a month or so. Not very often. It just depends how many committees you're on. Some people are on like 5 committees. I'm on 2. And also with COVID, a lot of things were cut. They didn't have the staff to have the meetings because you always have a staff member there as a resource to share with you what are the rules or regulations, what can we actually do, so you don't have a big old conversation and then it's like, well, we don't really have this in the budget, or well, legislatively this doesn't work. So I would say I was surprised at how much lower the commitment was of things to need to do, because I had my first women's committee. I've only had 3 women's committee meetings. As a board member, we've had 6 meetings. Those are long. Those are about 3 hours long. As a delegate, you get in where you fit in. You put your resolution in, and the convention happened over 3 days. I'm not sure how long it's happening over Zoom. I think it's a 2-day event over Zoom. So the commitment it holds a lot of depth, but time-wise, it's as if you're going to volunteer for, I don't know, maybe there's a particular place where those experiencing homelessness need help and you hop in every once in a while. The time commitment tends to pop in here and there, maybe once a month or so. Outside of me doing my own thing of like the think tank I created. That was just me saying, hey, I have this title that's helping me to get access to these people. So the think tank, we would meet every other week to talk about how do we move things forward. And that was for an hour.
Do you think it also enriched your relationships with those folks for like outside opportunities?
Definitely. I think so. Definitely. Yvette Nicole Brown and we now chat because she is a national board member and has been ever present in the conversation when it comes to hair and makeup. There are definitely people that sorry if you guys hear my kid, he's having a hard time. He wants mommy. But There are also definitely introductions that have been made through time. Management 360 is somebody who came into my world, one of the managers there, where now I have a rapport. I've built a lot of rapport with different people because of my position and the active work that I'm doing. Because I will say, you can also be a delegate and go to convention and then not do anything at all. You could also be a board member that goes to the meetings 4 to 6 times a year and then not do anything at all. That can and does happen. But for myself, I knew what I was signing up for volunteering, choosing to volunteer for these 2 years. So I wanted to do more. I wanted to move the dial on this issue. That's the title every time of our Zoom meetings, moving the dial on proficient hair and makeup artists. So you get to choose how much more you want to put in there. And I think the more we invest in it, the more we definitely get out of it.
Do you think that's changed your experience on set as well, knowing that you're coming on as not just there as an actor, but now as a representative of SAG?
I think so. Definitely, definitely. I had an issue while I was pregnant, where I was fired because I was pregnant. And so, yep, it was because of it was discrimination because of I was having skin issues. I let them know of the skin issues because I was pregnant, and they said, "Oh, this is too much. We're just going to pay you and cast somebody else." So if it was just Tiffany pre-board, I talked to my agents about it, maybe make a phone call to the 1-800 number. Fortunately, I was able to talk to legal, which was Duncan. Now he's our executive director. Gabrielle Carteris held a meeting pre-COVID again. We were going to put together a campaign talking about what it looks like to be an actor and a mother, or an actor and a pregnant woman. There's no way I would have had that access without being a board member. There's no way. The conversation would have stopped with my agents. But because of having that position and people who see you and actually care, that's how those things were going. And also, this is pre-COVID, we're going to move forward. I have access to those things and the funding for it and the equipment for it. I have access because of my position.
Do you feel like, as we're talking about this path up to this leadership, your time in just SAG as a member contributed to your push to go forward with this? And those
It did. And I was listening because I was like, why do I want to do this to myself? Like, why? I do so much already and volunteering more time. And I was listening to an episode of Audrey Helps Actors, and Katie Von Till was on that episode. And she put it this way. She said, I became a SAG member umpteen years ago. I'm going to be a SAG member till the day I die, because, as artists, we don't be retiring, right? So she was like, why not share 2 years of my time as a volunteer on this? And I get to choose how much of a commitment level I put towards it. But she also noted nobody else is going to speak up for my needs as a woman other than myself. So why not? It's definitely, being a SAG member definitely has pushed me towards being like, I think I want to get more involved and volunteer my time. And also those dues that we're paying, I get to say, oh, this is where I want that money to go. I need to go towards this cause.
And speaking of the dues, the way it's set up now, for those of you who don't know, you have your baseline, that is just the amount that it does for the year, which is split into 2 payments. And then you also have a percentage of that is pulled from the amount of earnings that you've had. So that goes on top of it, also paid out across 2 payments in the year. Has that shifted for us during COVID times? I feel like there were some allowances that were made because they understood things were happening financially for folks.
Definitely. And please don't quote me on the dates, but it was also dependent on when you put in that, hey, I need forgiveness for not paying my dues. I remember the dates of November and of May, and there were no penalties if you could not pay your dues. Also, our affiliation with the Actors Fund was helping to support actors as well. If you can pay your dues, do pay them, because what is it paying for? It's making sure our residuals get out on time. It's paying for the staff members who have to do that. There's like 4 staff members who are getting residuals out for the nation. 4. 4. So understand, like, I know people were like, SAG doesn't do anything for me. I'm not gonna pay my dues. And I'm like, you got that check, didn't you? It came through. So, but they were also trying to make sure that people can still live and be a part of the union. So there's been a lot of sacrifices that were made. A lot of staff members were cut to make sure that other things can run, aka said member can't pay their dues but can still receive the benefits of being a union member, aka our health, those residuals still coming through, just the myriad of resources that the union provides and the fight that they provide on the legislative level. So there is forgiveness that's being given. If you want more information, please do go to SAG-AFTRA.org. But I know they were forgiving dues that were not paid because they completely understand that us actors, we were not working. Things have opened up now, but we were not working. And even coming out of it with the world of self-tape, there is a shift that's happening, and they're really trying to do what they can at the very base level where they're still running, so that actors are supported where they don't have to pay that amount of money if they don't have it, but also the union can still run.
I would also assume that because there are people who are aware of the newer things happening in technology, things like taking in time and money for your setup, for recording all these auditions, for doing I've heard some crazy stories about what was asked for a commercial audition of like, wait, you want me to now go out to the car and like drive around and be what? Like all of that awareness is also important, because if someone is a little bit older and they're not being asked to do those same things, they're not going to be aware of that need when it comes time to negotiate how and what is being asked of us going into these auditions. Especially,
Exactly.
we're probably going to stay on self-tape for a minute, right?
Right. And that's a place where, like, the W&Ws, why it's so important. If you're like, I am tired of getting an audition at 9 p.m. and they want me to tape it by 11 a.m., that's not fair. That's where we get to go and say, excuse me, I have this experience. I want to speak up about it. You as a member can come and say and do it. When you're a delegate or a board member, it moves forward faster. The right ears start to listen into it, and they're like, how can we change this? What can we do? The level of access I have of information when I have a question like that has changed because of being a leader, part of the leadership with our union.
And for those folks who are looking at it like, well, I have been acting, I'm out in the world, why would I need to go into this union? Can we talk
Right.
about why that is maybe something that we hope to have everybody move? You mentioned that you have union members and you have pre-union members.
Yeah, definitely. And that decision to move forward to be a part of the union that's a big decision to make, because then you are saying that I am doing only union contracts. No longer am I doing any independent non-union contracts. The biggest thing for me personally deciding to move forward and be union was pension and health and anything towards retirement. Like I said before, I don't feel like actors retire. And also, this job, it's not a hobby for me. So, knowing that, I wanted to have systems set in place that are giving me the correct level of working conditions when I'm on set, and also the correct wages when I'm working. It's scary, isn't it? Like when you
Make that
decide to become union, you're like, am I going to get a job? I remember I had just done this Cricket wireless commercial, got paid the most money I'd ever thought I could get paid. I think I was paid like $4,000 a buyout. And then I joined the union. It was like, oh, honey, that little 4K wasn't nothing. That was maybe like the first time the residuals came through. And that's even less than the first time the residuals came through. So that was negotiated by people like myself going in to talk to the JPC to say, this is what actors deserve who are selling this product. So I know it's a scary leap to make, but when you talk to your reps and you talk to yourself and you talk to your God or your higher power, you know that this is not a hobby for yourself. You're not just doing it for funsies. You deserve to get paid a certain amount. You deserve certain working conditions when you're on set, and you deserve to have healthcare, pension, and retirement from the work that you're doing. That's why our union is here, and that's why I joined.
I also think about the safety factor, like what you're expected to do on set becomes really guarded and laid out and has been thought through, because you're talking about years and years and years of other actors working and saying, I did that thing, but I didn't feel safe. Let's make it a part of this next contract. Or I did that thing and I was in a smoky room. I should be compensated an extra bump for that smoke. And with that, also, I shouldn't have to do a 14-hour day that I thought was going to be 8 hours and still get that same check. For every time it goes above a certain amount of time, let's talk about how that's going to increase. And I think it's hard to not, you're just coming in and you're doing your own thing, but all of that stuff has been considered when it comes to being as a part of a union. And there's a collective power, which is the same way I talk about here in Ready, where it's like, because we are collectively going into these contracts and showing people that we're all in this together, it brings a different kind of validation to the concerns and a validation to the need to change something that's happening around you.
You couldn't have said it better, Bree. Exactly.
So then if someone is in a place, let's say, that doesn't have as much union work, where they can be in a right to work state, what would you recommend for them as far as how they negotiate moving into this union? Or
Gotcha. I mean, you know your area. If you are in Idaho and you want to be union, and there's like, I don't know how many union jobs come through there, you got to take into consideration those things, right? I think there also comes a time when many actors, especially as we've gotten into this world of self-taping even more, that the doors have opened up where the opportunities are broader. So when you're coming to make that decision, you do have to look at, like, what do I have around me? I came from the Chicago market. I was not going to turn union until we got the whole suite of the Chicago shows, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD. I'm missing one, Chicago Med. We got those suite of shows. And then it was like, oh, now there's opportunities to be union, and this is why I can be union, and it's something that is beneficial to me because the work was there. And for myself, I knew I was going to move to LA eventually. So you do need to consider, like, if you're in an area and there's not as much union work, then maybe it's not for you right now. That doesn't mean for later on.
There's also the conversation around your pension and health, and making sure that you are in a place to be taken care of. So if you are injured on set, it's not you having to go up against a producer, it's a union supporting you should you have a problem on set. I had a friend, unfortunately, doing a non-union film, and one of the lights fell on her and she got a concussion. The producers dropped her off at home. And she was in a fight for 2.5 years to try to make sure that, one, they took care of her medical bills, because the bills piled up. That's still going to keep coming in whether you have that extra help or not. But two, for them to take some responsibility for the fact that they created an unsafe situation in the first place. And would you believe the producers on this were former officers who wanted to put together a film and had the gall, dropped her off at home. She had to, like, shuffle up her stairs. I was like, wow,
that's horrific.
The first version. Yeah.
That's
and
horrific. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
For the sake of, like, knowing, especially as we get to be older women, that you want to make sure your pap smears and mammograms and that kind of, like, just overall health, the ability to find, sliding scale therapy services.
Right.
So important.
And I feel as well, there also came a time where I think every actor needs to take a look at the business of acting, and any other corporate structured world has these things set into place. And so why aren't we doing the same thing when it comes to our acting business? It's not a hobby. I said that 3 times for a reason. This is a serious job that we do. The way that we transform lives because of the words that come out of our vessel and influence the things that people see. And of course, the entertainment. During the pandemic, what was everybody doing? Watching your faces on TV. What was everybody doing? That was their outlet. That is a job. And that is a job that deserves all of the provisions that any other corporate structured business has. And those same producers who are the ones who put this whole thing on, trust and believe they're protected, trust and believe they are. Actors should be protected too in those same ways. Your friend's story is horrific.
I
And the
know.
fact that the producers dropped her off at home and she had to fight for 2 years for them to take care of her bills, and then the outstanding things of who knows that's going to happen in the future. That example right there, when you go on a trip, we're taking trip insurance, aren't we? Like, your union is a part of that same sort of feeling of they are there to protect you. Yeah.
And I think about the respect too, because we are we're doing a service, and it should come with respect. And I think a part of the pandemic was that people started to realize that just because maybe you wear a name tag on your shirt doesn't mean you don't get respect. That all of a sudden we were like, oh, essential workers. And it's like essential meaning that you're going to respect them and pay them, because that's what I think, that you have to connect those dots. When did we stop thinking that anybody was deserving of that respect and that compensation and those guarantees? I hope that this will also push workers across the country to come together and say, we are deserving of respect and protections. As far as the world of what's coming next for SAG-AFTRA, can you give us a little like teaser of what's on the horizon?
Ooh, what's on the horizon for SAG-AFTRA? Gosh, I don't know if I have a teaser for you guys. I will say this, so you are aware of kind of the types of things that we push forward, us artists. So there's a push right now. It's been happening, but pushing once again for ages to be removed off of IMDb and like services. That is for protection of people. I just received a story, and we're also collecting stories. If anybody knows, has a story about this, where you've been affected in that way, because a woman whose birth date was on IMDb, somebody took that, stole her information, and they purchased a house.
A whole house?
A whole house. Somebody purchased a whole house. So this is a big reason why we're trying to get that removed. There's a big push right now of making intimacy coordinators a part of the union to protect us while on set. Every time they're getting ICs on set, folks are like, why didn't we have this protective provision happening beforehand? I noted before as well, trying to make legislative change when it comes to the certification process for hair and makeup artists, so that they are inclusive of our textured hair and our skin tone, of them being proficient and knowing how to do that on set. There's a big push for that. And then there's also some collaborations that are occurring really between the 𝐼ATSE. That's all of our crews that we see. 𝐼ATSE is like a big umbrella for several different, everybody you see, your grips, your camera people, the hair and makeup artists, they are part of 𝐼ATSE. So there have been some collaborations with the unions to do more work together to see how can we marry the issues that we're both seeing and push that forward when it comes to the work we're doing at the studio level.
Great. I see we have some folks on. So if any of you have any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand, to hop on camera, to ask, because we want to make this a like fluid conversation for you as well. So I'll just leave a little space for that while I ask Tiffany about that lip color, because it's pretty.
Thank you. My sister bought me these 4 different gorgeous lip glosses. So, Zoom, especially when I wasn't seeing anybody, I was like, gosh, I need to get dressed up. Lip, pull it out, put it on for the Zoom call, and it gets comments like that.
What's the company called, so I can go get it?
I know, I don't, and because it got rubbed off. I don't know where my sister got. Oh, wait, here we go. Nope, it doesn't have it on there either. Okay, I was hoping it rubbed it off. I've used it so much. I'll have to DM you. I'll have to look up and DM you.
Yes, please. Let's see. Okay. We have a thank you coming in from Lydia, just to say that it's been insightful and helpful. Now, I understand also because I'm a member of the stage union actors. This is just something that came up during the pandemic, especially. There was a conversation about the space of what is considered acting on camera versus acting on stage, and equity and SAG had a little tiff.
It was messy. It was like watching your parents fight, and you were like, "What?" It was very messy.
I'm glad that they did find a resolution because it's about getting us work, about getting us respected, compensated work. So I'm
Yeah.
glad they found their time together because the blend is happening. And that's also a part of that old guard moving into new ideas. That what is a movie? What is a television show? Is it because it's on my TV, or is it because I'm watching it across episodes?
Mm-hmm.
If I watch all the episodes at once, did I just do a series, or did I watch a film across 2 days?
And you saw the influencers, they're now protected as well. But because what was happening was that they were being taken advantage of by advertising companies. It's the same thing as non-union work, that they're not even getting a check. They might be getting some sneakers. And then they're getting them all these people to purchase their products. So I know that at times, I think sometimes people feel as if like, gosh, the union's just infiltrating in spaces. Why can't they just let it be? The union doesn't just let it be because we're led and run by actors, and we have seen how the evolution of our arts evolves. So we're handling it already right now versus seeing where it's going later on and then trying to catch up.
That's about also just seeing what's happening. But what's also great about the fact that there are working actors on these delegations and as a part of these boards is that they are in the day-to-day. They're
Yeah.
seeing what it has meant to shift and have these new demands on how you're used. Wasn't there just a thing about someone being scanned? There was a thing about someone being scanned in, do I get the scan or not? And I was like, see, that's some 2022. I'm still trying to catch up to 2020.
Right. And
You
I
can-
don't have all the information on how that works because it's usually used for background. So I apologize. I don't have that information, but that's part of the conversations that are happening because people were getting scanned and then used over and over again and not getting paid for that, which is not fair. You're using my image and likeness. And this is where our union has showed up and said, when this happens, these are the provisions that are in place to compensate said actor for their presence and image being used in multiple different forms.
That's what it's for. I'm all about come through. Here's my dues, And also I am grateful that because of how things have changed, I do feel like you're going to get more opportunities to be seen and to get booked on stuff because there's going to be 100 chances to be on a self-tape and be viewed and to build those relationships that turn into the bookings later.
Yeah.
It may not be a yes, but it's not just a yes right now.
Right. And if people don't know, I have not used this resource as of yet, but they are now doing online versions of having a reader through SAG-AFTRA if you need a reader for your auditions. So it will be like kind of a Zoom setup where it's recorded. You have a reader, you can record your audition and you can send that in. So they're trying to be present and help out. And it's volunteers, it's actor volunteers. You can volunteer yourself too if you got time and want to be a reader for people to be a part of that. Before it used to be in person, but then COVID. So now it's all online.
That's great because at least they're adapting.
Yeah.
You don't want the person who's just gonna like stay stuck in their little box and then not moving forward. But I appreciate you jumping into this. I'm very much like for the union, but I understand that there's always questions about it. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of demystify what it is that you do as a delegate and what that board membership can mean. So if anyone has any future questions, Tiffany's here.
I'm here and ready. Yep, I'm on there. Just shoot my name out, Tiffany Yvonne Cox, and I am so happy to answer any questions that I can, or at least guide you to the person who has the answer.
Great. All right, ladies, thank you so much. I do hope that you'll join us later today. This afternoon, we're doing, I guess it's afternoon for LA people, this evening for our East Coast and Central friends. We're doing a workshop with Coaching with Eden, and she is a fabulous coach who was recommended by a manager. She really helps actors who are moving from stage to screen to further like refine their experience storytelling for a different frame. And the way it's set up is that the workshop will have 3 actresses who have already self-taped their audition. We'll review them, and then we'll bring them in one by one to actually coach with her. And it's all free, and it'll be zoomed to the Facebook group as well as to our YouTube page. So all you have to do is just come through. Thank you guys so much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank all of you for being here. This is so incredible. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Bye. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.